All right, welcome to another Let There Be Talk, episode number 476, brought to you today, Monday, May 13th. And I have successfully passed another Sunday without seeing Game of Thrones. That's right, you heard me right. What, are you crazy? You're not watching Game of Thrones? Oh man, what are you out of your mind? I haven't had a TV in exactly almost to the date 8 years, which is funny to think because TV was such a big part of my upbringing. Growing up in the 70s, TV, it's all you had. It's all you had. You had I don't know what it was, 8 channels. And then later on, Showtime came around and just your head blew off. And then, of course, cable, MTV. But early on, it was just the big power. NBC, ABC, CBS. You would just watch all these great shows from back in the day. It was crazy. I just loved TV growing up. That's probably why I don't watch it, because I know it's so good that it'll just grab me. Not the big stuff, but I'm talking about everything that's on Netflix and HBO and Showtime and FX. And once in a while, I'll sit down and get into something like Breaking Bad. I'll watch the entire thing, or The Sopranos, or The Wire. Those are things that I went crazy over. But back in the day, I would just watch Streets of San Francisco, Happy Days, All in the Family, The Jeffersons, Laverne and Shirley, Beretta. Oh, Beretta, Kojak. I would watch everything nonstop, just consume it all, and just love it. Be at school trying to do impressions of people like Kojak. Who loves you, baby? Who loves you? I loved all that. Sanford and Son? Oh, fuck. Anyway, the reason I bring that up is my guest today is an absolute legend, and I am so happy to have him. Robert Hayes. If you don't know who Robert Hayes is, you're going to quickly know as I start to describe some of the jobs that he's done. And, of course, the main one was Airplane and the sequel, Airplane 2, the sequel, Ted Stryker. Unbelievable what this film, Airplane, meant to the comedy film world. I mean, before that, in the 70s, there was so many great comedy films, so many. Animal House, Young Frankenstein, Up in Smoke, The Jerk, Bad News Bears, Smokey and the Bandit. So many good ones. But I really believe, for me, Airplane was the first time, which came out in 1980, it was the first time that I really understood, oh, this is a different type of comedy. This is dry comedy. And, of course, I had seen dry comedy by watching a lot of Johnny Carson and the way that the straight man would work on numerous occasions on that fantastic show. And over the years, of course, Newhart is the king of dry comedy. The king, Bob Newhart and his TV show. But Airplane was really something different when it came out, and it just exploded. It took over America. It cost $3.5 million to make, made $100 million, and that was back when tickets were $5. And I think it was $1.50 for matinee. Back in my day, the movie was 75 cents. Anyway, so imagine how many tickets they sold at $5 to reach $100 million. This film was a phenomenon. Amazing guest Guest roles in it by Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, which is just smoking. Leave It to Beaver's Mom, which is a great, great show that I loved. Leave It to Beaver. God, it's so weird to think I love that and how much edgy shit I love now and how much I loved Leave It to Beaver and Gomer Pyle and all that stuff. Mayberry. Anyway, Robert Hayes is slugging it out in the 70s, working on all these great TV shows, doing guest roles like The Rockford Files and Marcus Welby, Streets of San Francisco, all that stuff. And then he lands a role that completely changes his life, Airplane. And it was great to sit down and talk to him. It was just a complete stroke of luck, I would say. And I want to thank my good friend Bob Romanis for kind of hooking this up. The old friend Damone himself from Fast Times. What a great human he is and what a great human Robert Hayes is. You're going to love this episode. All kinds of stuff I didn't know about him. He was married to Cherie Curry from The Runaways, which is pretty cool. And he, guitar player, music lover. He's got a great 66 Volkswagen bus, air-cooled. And it was an honor to have him. He recently lost his whole entire home and everything he had in the Malibu fires, which is just tragic. And we sit down and we get into a great talk about acting and comedic acting and auditioning and all that. And it's just a very cool episode and a great guest to have. So sit back and enjoy this. Before we do get into it, I got a sponsor here. Let's get into this. All right, Del Raisers, you need some free stuff? It's time. Loyal listeners get free stuff right here on Let There Be Talk. What are you shaving with? You buying those super expensive blades that are locked behind some kind of dumb case at a drugstore? Don't do that anymore. Join the 10 million who have tried Harry's. Claim your free trial offer by going to harrys.com/Delray. Get a $13 value trial set that comes with everything you need for a close shave, comfortable shave, smooth shave. I absolutely love these blades. I wish I had them years ago. I spent all kinds of dumb money on vibrating heads, flex balls, and handles that look like spaceships. Furious. No more of that. Harry's have fixed that by combining simple, clean design with quality, durable blades at a fair price. Harry's bought a world-class blade factory in Germany that have been making blades over 95 years. So these are the goods right here. They've received over 20,000 five-star reviews on Trustpilot and Google. I love Harry's blades. Complete cartridge replacements are only $2. That's half the price of Gillette Fusion Pro Shield. Harry's blades come with 100% quality guarantee. Here you go. Listen, free. You can't go wrong. Get a $13 value trial set that comes with everything you need for a close, comfortable shave. Weighted ergonomic handle. 5-blade razor with lubricating strip and trimmer blade. Rich lathering shave gel and travel blade cover. Harrys.com/Delray. Make sure you go to Harrys.com/Delray to redeem your offer and let them know I sent you there to help support the show. Do not sleep on this, people. What a great, great offer. Harrys.com/Delray. Okay, don't forget, subscribe to the Patreon.com/Delray. /Dean Delray. If you want to hear bonus episodes, I'm going to be talking all about going to that Porsche show over the weekend and some other very cool stuff. What else? Quaker City Nighthawks' new record and the Sheepdogs. Going to talk about all kinds of good stuff on the bonus episode. I do want to give a big love shout out to the new subscribers. Dave Clark, welcome aboard, buddy, to the Patreon. Stephen Dowie. And what else we got? Matt Scannell. I never knew how to say your last name. I hope I did it right. From Vertical Horizon. It was great to meet you, buddy, out at the Porsche show. So, and then, of course, Mark Brunot, the king of the Del Raisers. Love all you guys. And next upcoming road show is, here it is, June 7, 8, 9 at the La Jolla Comedy Store. Headlining. Get your tickets now. Running some new stuff down there, working it out. Hope to see all you guys. Okay, here we go. Let's get into it. If you haven't seen Airplane, do it immediately after this episode. Here he is, Robert Hayes. All right, here we are, another episode of Let There Be Talk. Fantastic guest. I gotta say, man, a legendary guest here, Robert Hayes. Airplane fame, but a lot of other stuff. How are you, buddy?
I'm good. I'm good. We're here in Lost Wages.
Yeah, Lost Wages.
You're working, and I'm just coasting.
Yeah, you're working, right?
We've been working our butts off, but no, it's been really nice. It's good.
It's so good to have you on. It's I feel like it's so weird to think about. I'm 53, and when Airplane hits, at the time you got Caddyshack and Airplane.
Yeah, you were 13, 14 years old.
Yeah, right around there. And I grew up in the 70s, of course, so when Airplane came out, I knew exactly what it was spoofing. It was spoofing the Airport 77, 75, all that.
Right.
Towering Inferno. The same guy made all those.
Right.
And so when I go to see this film, it was the first time I really think, and one of the key things in my comedy knowledge, of seeing this kind of comedy. It was very dry and very radical, and that in Caddyshack. But a lot of this film taught me a thing about timing and the what would they call it? What do they call that? What do you call it?
The straight man?
The straight man.
Yeah.
I mean, this is pretty incredible when this film comes out. It's like $3 million to make. It makes $85 million.
I think it was, 3.7 or something. They talk about, my publicist told me, Tony Angelotti told me one day, he said, hey, I just found out that Airplane was the biggest money-making comedy of all time until Ghostbusters. I said, wow. And I was having lunch with Howard Koch, who was our executive producer, and he had run Paramount before and really knows the business. And so I was having lunch, and I said, Howard, I heard today that Airplane is the biggest money-making comedy of all time until Ghostbusters. And he sat back, and he looked up at the ceiling for a second. He said, no, I think we still are.
Really?
Well, if you think
because of the ticket inflation and stuff, right?
No, because you think about how much it cost to do Ghostbusters and all the special effects and all of it. It probably was, at that time, probably like $25 million.
Right.
They figure 3 times your budget is when you go into profit. You start making some money. So they had to go to $75 million before they start making any money. We were making money at $10.5 million already. It was making money.
Yeah, after the second day, I read that it earned back its production cost already.
Yeah.
And that ticket back then was $6, $5.
Yeah.
Movies were $5.
Yeah. 1980.
I want to, before we really get into the body of work of Airplane, I really want to get into that. I want to talk a little bit about how you started acting and what seemed to be back then what I would call the open mics of acting, which were all these guest spots that everybody did. Now, if you look at yours, it's really what everybody would do. You started on Rockford Files, which was a fantastic show.
Yeah.
You do Rockford Files, Marcus Welby, MD, The Streets of San Francisco, Laverne and Shirley.
Right.
And then you get up to Wonder Woman and then The Love Boat. So everybody would kind of file through these shows and learn the ranks of acting. They don't really have that anymore, but let's talk about that.
Well, I stumbled into this at Grossmont College down in San Diego. And because I was a transfer student, got there late. There were 2 classes. There was a beginning acting and a track and field PE class, which I found out I didn't have to take. So I'm plenty lazy. I didn't want to run around if I didn't have to. So I took the acting class. And it was so much fun, and it just felt like this is great. I'd like to do this, and I'm just going to kind of go along with this for a while. So I just stayed with that, and I just kept. It just felt comfortable, easy, natural, and I get nervous going on stage, and then I would use the nervous energy on stage, and I found out people like Red Skelton used to throw up every time before they go on stage. So nerves were okay.
Right.
I got to the point where one time I felt so comfortable I wasn't nervous, and getting close to my entrance, and I started getting nervous that I wasn't nervous. Because
Yeah.
I'd go out there, there's no energy. Where is it?
Yeah.
And then I started getting nervous about it. Then the nervous energy came, and then bango, I got out there, and then it was fine. So that was interesting. And then I went from there. I went to San Diego State just like for a year, but my main deal was I started working at the Old Globe Theater. So I did the winter season, regular shows, contemporary shows, and then in the summer I did the Shakespeare Festival.
Was that in L.A.?
No, in San Diego.
Oh, in San Diego.
the old
Is that
Globe.
that outdoor place?
No, that's the Starlight Theater.
Okay, yeah.
And that has lights.
Yeah.
And it's right in the flight path of
It
Lindbergh
is.
Field.
That's how I knew about it.
And the lights come on, and everyone freezes on stage until the plane is over, and then the lights go back to green, and then you continue acting. Very strange. And I didn't work there. I never did a show there.
Yeah.
But I was at the Globe, the Old Globe, and that's theatrically, that's my home. And so I was at the Globe for probably 6 or 7 years, something like that.
And were you working a job during the day? What was going on?
I was working at Kogo TV, KOGO TV, AM and FM, which is now KG TV, and they split up the radio and the TV.
What were you doing there?
I was a messenger boy,
Oh.
and I'd work 11 hours a day, Tuesdays and Thursdays. So, and I made enough money to pay. I was living in my bus, my Volks bus, which I still own. I've
I
owned
heard
for
that.
51 years. I've owned
That
my
thing's worth a
66.
fortune.
Yeah, I got.
What is it, a 66?
Yeah.
Is it a 22 window or what is it?
It's 15, not 21. It's 15. Yeah,
Gotcha.
and
You got the front safari window?
no, I'm going to put those in probably.
Okay.
After all these years,
Love
I probably
that.
put those because I love those windows.
And what color?
Blue and white.
And original paint?
Yeah, original color, but I had it painted one time.
Right.
A friend owed me some money, and he had a guy painting, so he painted
Same
it.
thing?
Some drug addict, yeah. So it's got an interesting drug addict paint job on it. So, he opened the engine compartment, painted the whole engine, all the wires and everything.
Oh.
He's an idiot. I mean, he was a drug addict.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
my friend is an idiot because he hired this guy.
Does it still look like that?
No, the engine's all cleaned up. And
Oh,
it's all
badass.
nice and everything's great. But
I'm
so I lived in and out
Yeah.
of Buster, my bus, for 2 years, in and out of him. But that gave me enough money to to live, and also to then get a little apartment. And then I got this a gig at I was doing the plays, and that afforded me time to be able to do the plays at the Old Globe, and I could rehearse, and I just had the 2 days I was working, but I would get off in time to get over and do the play at night, because they were 6 nights a week, and Wednesday, Saturday, and Sunday matinees.
Oh, man.
So we had 9 shows a week, so it was really good. It wasn't just like a weekend theater thing.
And so that's how you're really digging into acting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You got, months of a run. And so it's not like Broadway where you're doing something for 2 years, but
Yeah.
still you've got months of a run. And so you have that thing that you get into. It is an incredible training ground for actors to do theater. And they start in theater. They've got a powerfully strong foundation for it. And it gives you that thing where you start out opening night, bango, and you may get like huge laughs. The second night, here it comes, dead. And that's where you learn how, okay, I'm really going to sell this laugh. It's dead. No. Pay attention and do the role. Forget about the laugh. Then the laugh comes. Because if it takes you by surprise, it takes the audience by surprise. If you're not surprised, the audience isn't either. And you get a little chuckle or something, and it's dead.
Yeah. That's
and
interesting.
you get into the boredom of it. It's over and over and over, and it's not improv. It's the same script, and you're doing it over and over every night. Matinees, 2 shows a day, Wednesdays, Saturdays, Sundays. And so you get into that repetitive thing, and you have to figure out ways to keep from getting bored.
How do you do that? Because
You got to trick yourself.
Yeah, because I get sometimes I just abandon the jokes to feel alive on stage because I've done over 4,000 shows now.
Exactly.
And you get so ice in your blood. You're like, wait a minute, I need to be.
Well, there comes a voice inside of you that challenges you. I did anyway.
Yeah.
It was, they're going to remember this. You may just forget about this performance, and the next night you may have a really good one, but this audience is going to remember this. Are you going to look like a schmuck? Do you want to leave them with this thought? Well, then how do you make it fresh? And I have that whole conversation with myself. How do you make it fresh? Can I say this line a different way? Can I? And you start thinking about coming at it from every different way. How can I say it? How can I think about it differently? How can I make this? How can I fake myself out to think that this is the first time I've ever said the line? And you do this whole thing with yourself. The next thing you know, you've just said it really fresh, and that excites you. And then you think, well, how can I do that every night? And you'll do that for a while, and then you'll kind of get into another phase of boredom, and you have to come up with another angle to attack the whole process.
That's wild.
And you keep faking yourself out, coming up with a bag of tricks that you can trigger yourself into, or scare the crap out of yourself into, you're going to be really boring, and people are going to think you're an idiot up there. Oh, no, shit. And then you got to,
Yeah.
So you learn how to do that. You learn also what works with an audience and what doesn't work. And then you come up to L.A. I was doing Marcus Welby, and I did it a couple of times.
Wait, this is after Rockford Files, though, right?
Yeah. But I come up and I do something, but I remember
Right.
on Marcus Welby was early on.
Yeah.
And I remember this old pedestrian director. He's one of those old traffic cops that's, not a heck of a lot of imagination. It's just like set the camera, action, cut, print, next one, action, cut, print.
Right.
And he said, cut. And I was just a small, a couple of lines. And he said, no, that's not the way you do it. You do it like this. And then he did something. And it was so bad. It was so wrong. Everything about it was wrong.
Yeah.
And I said, oh, I get it. He said, no, you get it now? Yeah, no, I see what you mean. Okay, all right. Let's go again. I did it exactly the opposite of what he said. I did it the same way that I just did it. I just gave it a little more.
Yeah.
It was exactly what I did. I just gave it a little more. And he said, cut. Yeah, now, you see? And I said, boy, you sure know what you're talking about. And he said, yeah, well. So I gave him that. Let him think that it's him,
Yeah,
But
TV directors, right?
Yeah, he was just an old, crusty old fart. So theater made me know that was what I was doing was the right thing. And my coach, I had Sal Dano was my acting coach. And he'd come to San Diego once a week. And at Thursdays, I started working with him down there, and then I came up here to L.A. I continued with him, working up, and he was great. He was a crotchety, and he offended a lot of people, but boy, he was great. They would send, agents would send their client a girl or some young guy that had never acted, and they say, I want you, like this one girl, the producers, I want you in this role, but do me a favor, do not take any acting classes, because I want just you. And the agents that knew Sal would say, Sal, he's another one of those producers. He doesn't want you messing with her. He doesn't want her taking any acting. But help me, would you? And so he would work with her, and they'd go in, and they'd do the role. And the guy said, you were perfect. Oh, thank God you didn't take any acting classes. Sal was that kind of guy that knew how to do it and how to keep it real. Don't look like an actor. So that's who I worked with. And then so it was banking on what I learned in theater, what I learned at Grossmont with Clark and Biff, my teachers, Clark and Biff.
Oh, hilarious.
And Biff is gone, but Clark is still with us, Clark Myers, not too much older than me. First acting class he ever taught in college, and I was in it. And So what I learned from them and at the Globe and then with Sal, that helped me go through. And then I got my agent, Arnie Soloway, and I was his first client. He was my first agent, and I was one of his first clients when he went on his own from the Susan Smith agency, and he started his own, Arnie Soloway and Associates. And in the first, it was 18 months, it was a year and a half, and I did over 24 shows.
Man.
And when he'd tell his friends, the other agents, they're talking about how their guy, I got my guy this show. This is like the 5th show he's done this year. And Arnie said, he's done over 24. They go, what? And that was doing 1 and 2 lines and working up to being a guest star. And back then, the agents would go around, didn't have the internet with all this stuff. The agents would go around with your 8x10 with your bio stapled to it. And he'd go in and say, hey, for this role, what about this one? I don't know. Well, what about this? And what about this one for that role? And by the way, this is my new young actor. I just signed him, Robert Hayes. And he'd have me with him. So instead of looking at a picture, they'd see me and I'd say, hey, how you doing? And they would see me live, moving around. And
just in a big casting?
In their office.
Right.
And it was nobody else there. It was just because you didn't have actors going in there. The agents would go in there, but he'd take me with him. So they'd see me and they say, wow, I like the energy. I like that guy. So you start auditioning and you've got an agent. Well, that was just meeting with them. And then they say, I want you to come in. I want you to come in and read. Or I want you to come in and meet the director. So you go in and you meet the director. Sometimes they cast you. Or they'd have you read. And I used to try to get, and with Arnie, it just kind of, I don't know if I asked for him to do it or it just worked out that way. But I'd try to get, if I could get 10 auditions, I figured I could get called back on anywhere from 3 to 5, and out of that I could get a job. And what happened a lot of times was I'd get, all these auditions, I'd get called back on a bunch of them, and I'd wind up sometimes with 2 jobs. And one would work on Monday, and the other one worked on Tuesday.
Perfect.
And I worked on Monday, and they didn't get everything, and so I had to go back in Tuesday, and I called Arnie and said, Arnie, Jesus, what am I going to do? He says, I'll give him a call. So they moved that to the afternoon. I worked that half day, so I got another day's pay. And at that time, it was something like $500 a day. I got $500 that day. Next day, I went and I got $500 again, and I did the next show. I made $1,500 in 2 days. It was like, oh my God, this is incredible.
Yeah, and you're doing it.
So
you were doing it. If you look at this IMDb page, it is old school. I would call like blue collar working, just nailing all these great shows. Were they all shooting pretty much on lots? Like all those, like
with
Love
some
Boat.
stuff we did, like the Blue Night.
Yeah.
And we shot that down like in Watts or South Central, and I'm a young rookie cop, and I just have a few lines, small part, and I'm out there and they're throwing trash and dirty laundry and shit on you from the apartments up above because you're a cop. Hey, I'm an actor, but they're throwing shit at you. It was pretty stinky, but it was pretty fun. But
you worked on.
There was a lot of backlot stuff, Burbank Studios, Goldwyn, the backlot at Goldwyn Studios, which now I guess is the Oprah Winfrey Network. Studios.
Oh yeah, down there, that place. That was called The Lot for a while.
Yeah, that was Sam Goldwyn Studios. Before that, it was Goldwyn Studios, which was great, which was Hollywood history. Sam Goldwyn, man, and then the Warner Brothers, which for a little while became 3. It was Columbia, Warner Brothers, and one other one. It was called the Burbank Studios for a short period, and then it went back to being Warner Brothers. So, Paramount, all of these things, you go and shoot on the lot. And shooting on the lot, the old back city streets, that's so fun.
Yeah.
Working on a lot in those old...
what about Streets? Was that shot on one of the lots?
Streets of San Francisco was in San Francisco.
Oh, you actually went up there?
Yeah.
Because that's where I'm from, and I always thought, like, I'm from the Bay Area. I never saw him film anything, but I was a kid then, so, Did you get...
But that was like in like a library. So we're in a inside,
And did you work with Carl Malden on that?
I don't think I worked with either Carl or Michael.
Oh, wow.
On that. But then later, I did a series that they actually developed it for me. It was they developed the show, and then I agreed to do. I had a contract with a development deal with Columbia when it was at the Burbank Studios at Warner Brothers, and it was for features and for television. And the features, I got paid off on the deal. We didn't come up with anything that I liked or that they liked. And so that ended. And then the TV deal, we wound up doing Starman.
Oh, Starman.
The series version of the TV show.
Yeah.
I mean, the
movie.
film show. Yeah, the movie. And then Michael Douglas was exec producer because he produced the film. So he's one of the 3 exec producers. So I met Michael on that.
How about Penny Marshall?
Penny, I did
Laverne and Shirley.
Laverne and Shirley, and I played her boyfriend in this show, in the series. And I take her, and then we get my buddy Moose as a blind date for Shirley because she has to find someone for Shirley. And so I take him out. We all go to play pool, and I take him in my bus because I'm a bus driver. And I've got my bus driver uniform, and then I've got my little coin changer. I did a little bit where I said, you want a soda? And I went ka-chink, ka-chink with my voice changer. And and held out the coins, and they thought that was funny, so they left it in the show.
The old ice cream man change thing.
Yeah.
The ice cream man would have that.
The pennies, nickels, dimes,
I used to think that thing was so cool, right?
Yeah.
The ice cream
which
truck.
one was which.
Yeah, it's just
you
like,
have to look.
It made that sound.
Yeah.
Here you go. That's so old school.
And then in that, these bikers come in, and they got their biker chicks, and it introduced the character of the Angie, the bikers mall, and she and Laverne had this animosity thing going, and says, "Yeah, watch out! I'll rip that L off your sweater." To Laverne, and Laverne said, "You touch that L, and your teeth go straight to Peoria." So that was the whole. Then they fight, and then we're out supposedly fighting. And that was where the character of Angie that became a semi-regular on Laverne and Shirley.
Yeah, the series.
Stayed, and then, it was a regular on Laverne and Shirley. Then, like a year or 2 years later, there was a spinoff, and they made the series Angie and changed her character around. Instead of the tough old broad, it was the little Donna Pescow.
I remember.
And then my neighbor did the pilot. And then I was leaving to go up to Mammoth to go skiing. And I lived in the studio room over the garage. I was renting that studio apartment. He was renting the main house. And he tells me, he says, "They're going to recast the show. And I heard they want you." And I said, "Yeah, but don't worry. They're not going to use me." And he was kind of, he's such a nice guy, great guy. And he went, that's what it was. He went skiing. And over that weekend, that long weekend, and by the time he'd come back, they had me come in, and Mark Harmon and a few others, and we tested for the role, and they wanted me. So he comes back, and I see him, and I think...
He moves to the apartment, and you're in the main house.
Yeah, no, I stayed in that little thing, but I'm thinking like, oh, God, hey, man, they cast me in the show, and he hung his head, and he felt so bad, and he was such a great guy. I haven't seen him for all those years now, but so then I wound up doing Angie, and I was in the Laverne and Shirley episode that introduced the character of Angie. So I always thought that was
wild.
Funny. Yeah,
you look at Happy Days, and you think about the show that just kept giving. They spun it off. They had Laverne and Shirley. Then they had that one with Scott Baio,
right?
Joni and Chachi.
Yeah.
And then a spin-off from Laverne and Shirley into Angie. This is just crazy.
And I think there must have been some other ones.
There had to be.
Too.
I can't believe Lenny and Squiggy didn't get their own show.
Well, I think they tried.
They did, right?
I think they tried.
Yeah, I wonder on that.
I mean, they were so great.
Those
on that
guys
show.
were great.
Oh, they were funny.
Hello.
Yeah. Yeah. Squiggy. There was one line. I think it was the episode that I did. Anyway, another storyline in it was that they had a truck or something, or a Jeep, and they're trying to sell it in the want ads. But Laverne put in the want ads that they had a Jeep for sale. They didn't. But they had it for sale in the want ads, a phony want ads. contact Shirley because she was trying to get Shirley set up all the time.
Oh, I see. Just to meet dudes.
So just to meet dudes. So guys would come and say, "Where's your Jeep?" Well, I don't really. Oh, well, hey, listen, you want to go out? That's what Laverne was hoping for, right?
Early online dating.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And so there really wasn't a Jeep.
Yeah.
At the end of the show, and we've gone through all of our stuff and the date and everything, and at the end of the show, Lenny and Squiggy, the door opens, there's Lenny and Squiggy says, "We're here to buy you a Jeep." and Laverne says, "Squiggy, there is no Jeep." And he said, "Oh yeah, you in what army?" It made no sense, and I was on the floor.
Yeah, man.
No sense.
Those guys were great.
They were incredible.
They were great.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, because if I look at the IMDb, you're just doing all these guest spots and stuff like that, and then Airplane comes, the great Ted Stryker role.
Well, I did all of those guest spots up to Angie.
Right.
And I was doing I think I was doing a TV movie because I'd gotten up to where I was doing some leads and some stuff too.
Yeah.
And I was doing a TV movie, I think it might have been the California Gold Rush in Park City, Utah. And I needed a screen test for them. And I'm dressed up in this Western outfit. And they shot it in the forest. And I'm standing there with my chair, that's got my name on it. And so I shot this little test, whatever it was.
For Airplane?
No, I think this was for Angie.
Oh, I got you.
And so I do that, and then they said, "Yeah, it's great," and so they cast me. So I'm doing Angie, and while I'm doing it, they're auditioning for this thing, and they give me the script, and they've been all over the country looking, and
for the Ted Stryker role.
Yeah, and Julie's.
I mean, there was a
Elaine.
shitload of people working in Hollywood at the time.
They were in Seattle and Minneapolis, Chicago, New York, and Dallas. They went everywhere looking for him.
Did they want like an unknown guy?
The casting directors were saying, "Oh yeah, well we got Steve Martin, or we've got Chevy Chase, or we've got." They didn't want that. The casting people didn't get it. They didn't get what they wanted, and they thought, "Well, it's a comedy, so let's get comedy people."
Right, and Caddyshack is and Saturday Night Live is giant from
Yeah. And so but what they wanted was Bob Stack was the first guy that came to mind to play Kramer. When they wrote the thing and they started thinking of who would be in this Kramer, Bob Stack, Elliot Ness.
Yeah.
With that Elliot Ness thing that he had, And so my agent got the script, he gave me the script, and I read it on an airplane, flying back to Minneapolis, St. Paul. And Donna Pescow and I, we were doing Angie, and we flew back with Howard Cosell, legendary Howard Cosell, and a few other ABC people, because there was an NBC station that was the oldest TV station west of the Mississippi, and it was changing from NBC to ABC, which was a huge deal. They flew in a bunch of stars from ABC shows, and then we did all these things. And I read the script on the plane, and I was sitting there, literally, no exaggeration, there was something on every single page that made me laugh out loud.
The jokes were there already.
I wasn't smiling. I actually made a sound. I was laughing out loud on every single page. It was the tightest, most polished.
Wow.
They wrote everything. And a stewardess looked, she came up to me and says, I couldn't help but notice you seem to be really enjoying. I was wondering what you're reading. I said, this is a script I'm going in to meet next week, like Monday or Tuesday. I was going to meet with them. And it's a script called Airplane. And do you want to read it when I'm done? She said, that would be lovely. And she had her hair was in a bun. She looked like a very kind of tight-ass, prim, proper stewardess. And so I gave it to her when I was finished. And I looked up, and she put the little jump seat down, and she was sitting there, her knees tight together and very prim. And she turned the page, and I saw her just kind of looking at it. And she turned the next page, and I saw her smiling. So I looked back, and I was doing some stuff. And then a little while later, I looked back, and I saw her kind of giggling and smiling. And I looked back. A little while later, I looked up. I just kept looking in stages as she got through the script. Pretty soon, her bun was undone because she was laughing so hard. Her knees were flying everywhere. She was all over the place.
Yeah.
She came back, brought it back, and she was all disheveled and said, "Thank you very much." And then I went in and I met. And when I met with the guys, my agent had a brand new agent, Beth Foycu, who had just come in as a sub-agent, a new agent in the office. She'd worked with Howard Koch, and so she called Howard up and said, "Howard, I got your Ted Stryker." And he said, "Well, bring him in." So I went over there and I read it, and then I went in and I met with him, and we all got along great. Howard and the boys, we call them the boys, Jerry and David Zucker and Jim Abrams.
Yeah.
And they wrote it, directed it, and everything. And it was that was them. They were the cause of the whole thing. Anything that you loved about Airplane was because of them.
Well, they were coming off Kentucky Fried Movie,
Yeah.
which was a cult smash.
Yeah, that was
a cult smash.
They wrote it and they produced it.
Right.
They hadn't. This was their first thing to direct.
I get it.
John Badham directed that.
Yeah.
And they had Kentucky Fried Theater, but then we all got along, and then I read for them, and they loved my reading. And then I got to screen test with Julie, which to me was gold.
Yeah.
And they liked the screen test for both of us. And then they came over to the set of Angie, and they all three. And they used to one would start a sentence, and the next one would say the middle part, the next one would say the end. It was like
Three Stooges style.
One head with three bodies.
Oh, yeah.
And they came over and said, "You're the one." And I went backstage, back behind the psych, and we were standing back there, and they said, "You're the one. We've chosen you. You're the one." And I go, "Yeah." And so we're all four jumping up and down saying, "Yeah, that's great." Trying not to be too loud because we were filming or, camera blocking or something. And so as they're going out, Jim told me later, "We got to go. We should check out this Angie thing," because they didn't know anything about Angie. And, but I mean, that's him doing this. So we got to check it out and see what we got.
Yeah.
They went and watched Angie, which is a sitcom. That's a totally different thing. And they went,
Totally.
"Oh shit, what have we done?"
Oh, they didn't like it, so now they're worried about you.
It's a whole different
animal.
style. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Well-
Then we get on the set.
Yeah.
And Beth used to come by every day or every other day because she was so proud of this, her little pet project. She got it together, and they used to run up to her every day and they say, "Thank you, thank you, thank you," because they loved what we were doing. Because
Oh,
I
man.
got it, because that
Yeah.
was the kind of stuff I love to do.
How did you, when you read the script, the jokes are there. How did you, because the film is dry all the way through.
Absolutely.
It's this dry comedy. Did when you went in, did they say, "Look, we're looking for a blueprint of a dry comedy"? Because it's not your standard type of jokes
Yeah.
of like boom, bam, big laugh.
Absolutely
So
not.
my point is, when you're reading it and you're laughing, the script, the jokes, me coming from a comedic side, the jokes were actually popping off the page like that, like funny.
It was, to me, I mean, it just made my guts hurt.
Yeah.
It was so funny. But because it was serious. And that's what they wanted, which was great. They wanted it serious. Play this straight. Don't play it for laughs. If you're playing it for laughs, it's like there are some comedies you watch, a lot of them, and there's an astral projection of the person doing the line, and it's like he's looking at the audience. The little astral projection is looking at the audience and say, "Hey, isn't this funny? Aren't I funny?" And the audience is kind of like, yeah, it's funny. My astral projection was looking at the audience and saying, "What are you laughing about? This is serious," which made him laugh harder.
Yeah.
Be
It's a lot
serious.
like Norm Macdonald.
Be serious and let it do it's on its own. It's going to be funny.
Yeah.
You be serious, but, and the more really serious you are about it, it's just be straight. Be straight.
It's when you guys start shooting. First of all, let's get into the casting here. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, whose idea was that genius
Who
move?
was the original choice?
What's that? Who was the original choice?
Pete Rose.
Pete Rose, and he turned it down.
They said, "You know what? He's going to be playing in the playoffs because he's always in the playoffs somehow or another." And so we're going to be filming. So who can we go for? And the joke was, because it was Crazy Legs Hirsch, Elroy Hirsch, in the film that they were spoofing in 0 Hour, who was the great running back, halfback, whatever, for the Rams.
Yeah.
And so they said, who can we find we got to find an actor that can't act, which was the joke.
Yeah.
But Kareem had acted with Bruce Lee.
Oh, that's right.
And
That's
so
right.
he had some experience. He knew. But when you think about it now, who else could play that?
It's so great.
It's perfect. And Kareem, he's very quiet. He's such a gentleman. I mean, he's an amazing guy. I love him. I love the guy. But
some of his line's great, man. When he grabs that kid, look, you tell your dad I run up and down that court 48 minutes a year.
To drag Walton Lanier's ass up and down that court for 48 minutes. And he looks around like, did anybody hear?
Yeah.
Look, my name's Roger Murdoch. I'm the co-pilot.
Yeah.
Oh, he was perfect.
And then we've got Beaver's mom.
Barbara Billingsley.
Unbelievable.
Originally,
Yeah.
Harriet Nelson.
Really?
Of the Nelson family. And I met her. And she came, for some reason, she was at an Angie taping, or she was somewhere where I was. And I went up and said hello, and she was the sweetest thing. She was like, if you think about the sweet mother or grandmother, she was that. It's just incredible. And she told me that she was so worried about the language, and she was so sorry she turned it down. And she would have been great, but Barbara Billingsley, how can you top that?
She smoked it. She smoked it.
Yeah.
When you look at the jokes and what kind of world we're in right now, in this PC world, which has happened over the last few years in the comedy world and stuff, a lot of those jokes would not be able to fly right now. Do you think?
Oh, God. Do you remember Army Archerd? Army Archerd was a big columnist for Variety.
Oh.
And he heard about this, it was going around in the industry, the buzz. Once we started, going.
People were talking, huh?
They used to have to run the dailies. When you're going to run dailies, you say, you go watch them for me, tell me what they're like. I got to brush my teeth, or I've got some important thing. It's like some of the dailies you just want to kind of pass on. Apparently they had to run the dailies over and over for everybody to get in because they all wanted to see them at Paramount.
That's amazing, because it was that funny.
It was so funny. So the word started getting around, and Army Archerd used to write, here's another scene they're doing in that crazy film Airplane, and he would describe the scene when Jesse was immolating himself, about to immolate himself because I'm boring him to death.
I love that. Killing. Oh, yeah.
So he's got all of these things. And then there was a scene that we shot, and we had a lookalike for Ray Charles as the pilot, and Stevie Wonder, a lookalike for him as the co-pilot. And we had the real Jose Feliciano as the navigator. And Jose wrote a song for the film, and they played it. We shot all of this, and then they cut out to, like Air Israel cleared the runway, and it had a yarmulke and payas, the plane did,
Yeah.
And so they were shooting this, right, with Stevie Wonder, Ray Charles, and Jose, and then they'd cut to the tower, Air Poland, clear the runway. Well, the Polish jokes were so big at the time, and the Polish community was so pissed off, and they wrote a letter to him. They showed me the letter, and it actually...
Even back then, people wrote letters.
The letter was so bad. The letter was a Polish joke from a leader in the Polish community or something, and it was so bad that they cut that from the movie because they were so offended, and they were going to sue or something because they were so offended. So we thought, okay, fuck you guys. So they cut that scene.
They caught wind of that scene?
I think Army Archerd probably put it in the column, and
gotcha.
So they were talking about that one, and so the Polish community got so up in arms, they cut that out.
So they buckled on a scene, actually.
Oh,
sure.
Sure. Just because they thought, there's these people they are so sensitive. They have absolutely no sense of humor. They can't laugh at themselves, and so they're so pissed off. There comes a time when you say, okay, fuck them. Let's just do somebody else.
Yeah.
So we can do them instead.
Yeah.
And so they cut that. That's somewhere in the outtakes, all that stuff. Army Archerd, because he kept saying about all these scenes and this scene and this scene, and everyone was laughing, reading Variety, and the buzz started with
Wow.
him. So then, when it came out, the screenings, they had to have a screening of it, right? They had to screen it, Writers Guild, Directors Guild, and then they have to have another screening to get all the people in because everybody wanted to see it.
That's incredible.
And we had a big screening at the Directors Guild, and I brought my folks, and my dad was a Marine aviator, fighter pilot.
Yeah.
So I thought, oh yeah, well, you'll get a kick out of my flying, Dad.
Yeah.
So I introduced him and Mom to Peter Graves.
Oh,
I
master.
said, Dad, this is Peter Graves, and of course, he'd seen him and all the things and TV, and I said, this is my mom and my dad, Colonel John Hayes, and this is Peter Graves, and it's like, how do you do? Well, how do you do? And Dad was tall, silent, 6'3", big, tall, fighter pilot, kind of reserved. So he wasn't like small talk, So we go in, we sit down.
Yeah.
It is packed.
Yeah.
The big theater in the Directors
Is this
Guild.
your first time seeing it?
I don't know if this is my first time, but we're sitting there, and it might have been, but I mean, I've been seeing all the dailies. And
Of course.
when we're doing our looping and everything, you see a lot of it then. But anyway, so we're sitting there, and there is this raucous laugh in front of me, and I almost reached up and said, hey, can you hold it down? I want to hear the movie. Can you hold it down? But I didn't. And the lights come up, and it's Bette Midler.
Oh,
I'm glad I didn't, because then later I replaced the guy that played her, really neat guy that played her husband on the Bette Midler show, and I replaced and played her husband for, it's supposed to be 3 episodes, but
yeah,
she didn't want to do it anymore. We did one, and then
She's a
started
big
shooting
star.
a second, and that was it.
big star after the Rose.
Yes,
Which was huge,
star. And I mean, she's the diva. She's Bette Midler.
Yeah.
She's great.
When you're at the screening, were there any jokes that didn't seem to hit that you were surprised and they re-edited?
No, because they had been screening it, and I went with them, and we watched a screening in the back of the theater at Grauman's Chinese Theater, and we just stood in the back and watched, and they kind of take notes on stuff, and then they would, they're still laughing. Oh, we got to stretch that.
Oh.
Because they laughed over the setup for the next joke. So then they added in a little bit. So they'd recut it just for the time. Their timing is impeccable.
It's
just
incredible.
Amazing.
It's incredible.
And so I went with them and got to see a little bit with them. But a friend of mine told me about a scene, something that I was there when they filmed. I wasn't in it, but I was there watching it when they filmed it. And then the first 3 times I saw it in screenings, I didn't notice it. And he told me, and then I watched for it, and now it's so obvious. But it's when Jerry is directing the planes, and David Zucker comes up to him and says, where's the such and such? The hand truck, oh, it's over there. And he's got the flashlight with the cones on it lit, and he's guiding the plane in,
Yeah.
And he points over there with it, and the plane turns to follow it, and it crashes through the plate glass window.
Oh, yeah.
All the people sitting in there with all the glass falling, those are all stunt people. And there's a woman with a baby. It's obviously a doll.
Yeah.
It's a baby wrapped in a pink blanket. And she goes, throws the blanket straight up in the air and takes off. And I never noticed it. Now it's so obvious to me.
Just screw the baby. I'm out of here.
But I never noticed it till the 4th time that I saw it.
Oh, man.
So
That film is loaded with all kinds of classic stuff.
a guy at the good convention this
Yeah.
weekend, he told me about, he said, yeah, you're doing the dance, and then you do that big flip, and there you are standing, and you flip in, and then you jump out. And I said, yeah, I was hiding behind the crowd looking at him and timing it. So that was he said, that was a mistake? I thought that was on purpose. And I said, oh, yeah, of course. Yes, it was on purpose. So I'm hiding behind the people, but the people moved, and I was watching that. I wasn't watching the camera.
Yeah.
As long as you can see the camera, it can see you, right? So I'm watching them because I've got a time for when he comes out. And I should have been watching the camera and hidden a little bit better, but there I am. So you see the stunt man flipping out of the scene, and there I am ready to jump in.
Oh, that's hilarious. I love that
But I
stuff.
told him, yes, of course, it was on purpose.
That stuff's classic.
And he said the Russian dance. I said, yeah, someone asked one time, the Gazatsky, you're doing that with your legs, one leg and then the other popping out, and then both legs are popping out, and someone came up to me and asked, they obviously didn't realize there were wires holding me. And they said, how'd you do that? And I said, I really worked out, man. And they said, really? And then they left believing that.
Yeah.
And then Jim Abrams, right in the middle of when I'm doing that, Jim said, "Can you juggle?" And I said, "Yeah." And he throws in the 3 balls or oranges, whatever it was, and I juggled those. So that was an on-the-spot thing.
That's so cool.
Yeah, it was.
Now, what are we on? The 40-year anniversary of this, right?
This year, it was 40 years ago that we filmed it, and next year, in 2020, is going to be the 40th anniversary when it was released.
Oh, God. At 40. I'm 53, so I saw it when I was 13.
Yeah, and I'm actually younger than you.
Yeah, you're only 50, so
right.
you were 9 when you did it.
Yeah.
Now, once Airplane comes out, I mean, it is a smash.
Broke every box office record, every theater it played in just about across the country.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
It was a lot like Caddyshack. Everybody's repeating the lines in junior high. Picked the wrong week to stop sniffing glue.
Yeah.
Anything.
Yeah.
I speak jive, all that stuff.
Shirley, you can't be serious.
Yeah.
I'm serious. You can call me Shirley. The 2-parter. It's one of those joke lines that it's one line doesn't work without the other,
Yeah.
And it's become so ingrained all in the society and all around the world that now you can just say, "Surely you can't be serious," and the rest of the joke is in the mind. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. So when that comes out, your life has to change.
Yeah, it was crazy.
What
I was at a party. You start getting invited to these parties, and oh my God, what was her name? She was one of the biggest agents in all of Hollywood.
Oh, wow.
She was a big woman. Gosh, I'm trying to think of her name, but they called her, the nickname was the Shark. I mean, she was
Super agent.
Oh, gosh, I almost had her name. And she, at the party, she wanted to handle me. And I had at least four different managers that came up and wanted to handle me. But the weirdest thing was, I noticed, kind of like, for good luck, if you see a redheaded kid, you rub his head for good luck. You rub the red hair. That's an old...
I've never heard that.
That's an old wives' tale, kind of a superstition. I noticed something people started doing. Because I was noticing this, kind of you get bumped here and there in the party, and you think, well, it's kind of crowded, and you're getting bumped. Then I noticed someone would see you, and I could see out of the corner of my eye. I really started developing this wide-angle vision so I could be looking one way, but I could see what was going on without looking right at it. And I'd see people look around and then see me, and then they would walk toward me, and then they'd start looking away, but make sure they were on a course towards me. And they would get up near me, and they'd lean in and brush against me.
Just to get a little, huh?
They wanted to brush it off on them.
That's
some of
wild.
that stuff, whatever the stuff was. And I just thought that was the weirdest thing. And I had, at that moment, in that period in my life, and I never realized it till later, and there are those guys that do realize it and really can capitalize it. But I was one of those guys that had a moment of being one of the most powerful actors right then and there in Hollywood.
And you weren't grabbing it.
I didn't know it.
You weren't grabbing it, huh?
No. My agent was great. He was negotiating money and everything was great. But his main kind of expertise was in television, TV and series and movies and stuff. But features, he didn't really know that. And he didn't know, like I could have done a huge film and done like a second or third part in it.
Of course.
That was a really juicy, great role. And that would have built the career better. But what he did was, I just did the leads, film after film after film after film. And so for the next 20 films, I was doing the leads in these films. And there were some that were, they just looked like fun things to do. So I was choosing that because there are actors that really know how to build their career.
Seymour Hoffman, when you look at him, he did all these primo things. You go, that guy, and they don't really know his name, but he's just killing it in every role. And then he finally does Capote, right?
Yeah, right. And there are other actors that did, that built their career, that knew how to build it. Sean Penn knows how to do that. Tom Cruise knows how to do that. But they also have their team of people, how to pick the right thing and how to, really get it all together.
Like if you would have signed with that super agent, the lady.
Sue Mengers. That was her name.
There
Sue
you go.
Mengers,
You signed with her, you get another manager, and all of a sudden
that was how you start really building. But I thought, you know what? Arnie is stuck by me so far, all the way up, I want him to get some of the action from it all. Some of the results, some of the benefit.
Right.
All
Oh, yeah,
of it.
you want to be loyal.
So I want to be loyal to him. And so I chose loyalty over building the career. And I mean, I feel good about having done that. And I feel kind of like, oh, gosh, man, it'd been nice to have been there. But I wish that I would have had that kind of, that talent and that ability that other actors have to know and recognize how to, but I was just having a good time.
Anything that you turned down that you look back on now? Like, oh, man.
Well, I didn't turn it down, but I went in and met with Spielberg and all these guys on this new movie that was like this. There was a space cowboy. It was Han Solo. That was the role I went in and met on.
Holy shit.
But they didn't choose me for it. But
that was in the 70s, though. So you went in for that?
Yeah.
Like
this was before I started.
Right, gotcha. So like 76, you go in for that. Starman.
That script, I loved that script. And I almost didn't do the series later on because it's hard to do a series version of a movie that was so great. You thought, man, how can you follow that?
Totally.
And there were a few other things that I didn't get that I met on, but trying to think if there's anything I turned down. I can't remember.
Yeah, I always love those stories.
There was one. I saw Ronnie Howard at a party one night, and I was going to do this film Splash, right? But then we went into something, the director they had, it wound up being in some other people's hands. And I saw Ronnie Howard, and Ronnie comes up to me and he says, "Why did you turn down Splash? We really wanted you." I think it was Splash.
Yeah,
and we really
Tom
wanted
Hanks.
you to do that. And I said, "I wanted to do that." And I said, "Well, we tried to get in touch with you. We wanted to get So someone, somewhere along the line said no.
Oh.
And so I never got that note from him.
Oh, I hate
I
that.
wanted to do that. And I would have gotten to work with Ronnie. And Ronnie Howard's one of the top filmmakers in the biz.
The best.
So that's what you want to do, is work with the best guys. And I got to work with some good people, but it was smaller films that were just tasty, fun films that looked like, God, this could be fun. This would be really neat. This would be great. I did a real small film that John Flynn directed that I loved working with him, and it was called On the Boardwalk, and it was sort of, I don't know if you ever remember an old classical film called David and Lisa, but it was a little bit like that. It had this kind of asylum that we were committed to, but I escaped from, and I come back and get the girl, and then we cure each other. Kind of, we can make it in life, And it was shot in New Jersey, and it was just the producer kind of didn't quite have that together.
Yeah.
So we had trouble in getting it out there, and it wasn't promoted well. So I mean, you want to get in films where you've got really good people that are going to be able to promote something.
The machine.
Yeah.
You got to be in the machine.
You got to have all that going for you.
It's bizarre because you're in the biggest film. You think that immediately every offer would be coming in. Oh, we got to get him for this.
I'd literally have a stack, 12, 15, 20 scripts, and I'd read through it, and a lot of them sounded like, they didn't sound that good to me. And it could have been that what I should have found out was who is directing what.
That's
what are the best directors. See, I know that now.
Yeah.
Who's the best? Who's the highest quality company? Who's doing all of this stuff? What great films are going on
Where's
right
Coppola?
now?
Where's Coppola?
Yeah, and Spielberg and these people that are, what are they doing what could I get into? You know? But we didn't, unfortunately, I didn't have that kind of stuff.
Let's get a little bit into something I didn't know until you told me yesterday, that you were married to Cherise Curry from The Runaways. Cherie Curry,
Yeah. I was friends with Steve Lukather, lead guitarist with Toto.
Yeah.
And his wife, Marie, who was Cherie's twin sister. And I was going to a gym, and I'd see this girl, and she'd smile, and I'd smile, and that was about the end of it. But then I was there one day, and here's Marie on a bicycle, stationary bike, and Cherie, after The Runaways, she'd gotten into health stuff, and she was training her because she trained people. So, and she was just unbelievable shape.
What year are we talking?
89.
89.
Yeah.
So way after The Runaways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so Marie called me over and it was like, this is my sister. I said, hey, yeah, how do you do? And how do you do? Yeah. And they said, well, you want to get together and go out sometime with Steve? You know, we all double date. And I said, well, okay, fine. And then, so we say, you know, let's get together that night. Well, we can't go that night, but we'll go another night. And I said, yeah, that's okay, fine. And then, well, we can't this night because Steve's got to go to this. And finally, Cherie said, you know, that's never going to happen. You want to we just go out? And I said, okay, fine.
Yeah, yeah.
So literally, that's what I said each time.
Did you know who she was? Did you know the Runaways?
No. That was like, I was earlier, you know, like Dave Mason, the Eagles, you know,
of course.
James Taylor and
that Troubadour.
All that. Yeah.
Were you going to the Troubadour and stuff?
Yeah, I did. I'd go a little bit. I didn't go out to clubs all that much, you know, a bit. But we were just going to restaurants and hanging out and go to the Improv. You know, we were going to the Improv a lot. And Bud Robinson was a buddy, and his son, Danny, who's an agent that handles lots of comedians and things. And so we became a little clique of us, a group of us. And we'd go there, and Bud Friedman was Bud Robinson's buddy. And so we became friends with Bud. And we just go there all the time and hang out and watch the comedians. And it was just great. It was really, really fun. And so anyway, then we just started going out, and she was amazing. And it just got better and better. And I had been able to dodge the bullet, you know, very successfully for a long time. You know, it was like Jim Carrey in The Mask.
Yeah.
You know, how the rubber body would go sideways and the bullets would go through.
Yeah.
That was me, man. I could dodge that marriage bullet. I was good at it. I was scared shitless of all that stuff. So
I'm right there with you. I'm 53, dude, and I've dodged them all my life.
Yeah, I was 40, 41, something like that. And so anyway, it just seemed, I thought, you know, if it's ever going to happen, man, it just got better and better when we were together. And so we were all, I took all of them to the Magic Castle. I was a member there.
What a great place.
Castle. So I took them all there, and we had I had the Houdini room, and there were these guys that were old timers. I mean, in their 80s, and they were like, I blanked on the names, but their sleight of hand was unbelievable, and they were like the best in the world. And so I had them set up, and they did a show. I paid them, you know, to do a show for all of us, and we all sat around, and they're the girls, Cherie and Marie, on either side of him, and they're his assistants, you know, doing all this stuff, and it's amazing. And I just thought, I went down and I called my business manager, Bruce, my best friends, and I said, hey, man, I don't know, man, this might happen actually tonight. I mean, I was looking for him to say, no, don't do it, or, you know, or that's a good idea, or whatever. And he really thought, God, man, she has such a great laugh. She has such a hearty laugh. I remember he always said that. And it was just an honest, unfiltered, big kind of a thing, which was kind of neat. And I went back upstairs there, and I just went ahead and kind of turned sideways, got down on one knee and said, hey, you know, what do you think? You want to do this? And it was like, ah! So we did it. And then, you know, I got the ring, we got engaged, and we got married in the backyard of my place. And I had a pretty nice place up in Nichols Canyon.
Great area.
We were going to have, I bought the lot next to it, and I put a tennis court on it, bought the house while it was being built, put in a pool. It had a little waterfall. It was really, really nice. We were going to have 50 people in the backyard there for the wedding. We wound up with 250 people, and it held it easy. It was almost an acre, mostly flat. Didn't have the tennis court in yet, but I had that land, so I had all the cars parked there. People said it was the most amazing wedding they've ever been to. My buddy said, hey, honey, you got to look at this, because it was food stations, so you didn't have to stand in line and wait, right?
Yeah.
Which I told him. I said, I don't want that. I want food everywhere, so it's just, you get the food right away. And so he said, you got to try this coconut shrimp, and it's just about out. And bang, it was all refilled again. It was so well done. The woman that did the wedding for us was amazing. The parking, they go out there to get their car, and it's like, okay, we got an hour wait. So anyway, yeah, here's my ticket. So I went to, here's the car. It's like, oh, geez. You know, I mean, it just went like clockwork. It was incredible. And it was beautiful. I mean, the only thing about it was I told the preacher that we got, somebody told me about this guy. I got this guy. And I said, we want just, don't talk forever. I want a short and sweet. I just really wanted nice thing. The guy went on. You know, like I'm laying there like,
let's do this.
Yeah, I'm on.
Yeah.
So other than that, and she looked like you could take her off the top of a cake, a wedding cake. Man, I mean, she looked unbelievable. Prettiest bride I'd ever seen. It was unbelievable. She was a gorgeous gal.
You guys are divorced now, but you sound like you're still friends because immediately you told me, you said, hey, we got to get her on the podcast.
Well, we've got our son, Jake, who is incredibly talented and is an amazing kid, and we both wanted to make sure that we had a good, it's like a family that's no longer married, but you all still love each other.
Yeah, that's great.
And so that's, you know, we wish the best for each other, and it's just, you know, she's got a new album coming out, and
that's cool.
She had a manager that didn't release this album 9 years ago when they did it, and they should have. And he just released it. It's on a red vinyl, which is really cool. And I don't even know what it's called, but it's, you know, Cherie Curry, I guess.
Yeah.
So that's out there, and it's great. And the one she just did with Brie Darling, that's going to be coming out, I don't know, in the next month or
yeah, we got to get her on the show.
Yeah,
that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, so
now, a little bit of horrible news. You lost your house in the fire, the Malibu fires.
Yeah.
A lot of people lost their homes out there. And
1,500 homes in the Woolsey fire in Malibu, and all together, 1,500 homes.
And everything you had, right? Gone.
Yeah. Yeah.
I heard like the original airplane script was there, all your memorabilia.
Yeah.
What happens? Were you home when the fire happens? Were you on a trip or what?
I had been over at the hospital the day before. I had this procedure. The doctor was checking something, and they put me out under, anesthesia. So I'm all groggy, tired from the anesthesia. So I really was asleep. And my girlfriend, Gina Carlson, is a gal that I'm dating, and she had her 2 little dogs. She said, I'm going to stay with you tonight because that fire over there, it was still off a ways, you know. But it's that makes me nervous. And I said, that's fine. So she stayed with me. My son, who lives there with me, and had his studio that we just remodeled 3 weeks before, beautiful. And all of his recordings he'd done of his stuff, his mom, Cherie's album that he did, it was great. Incredible reviews for it. The band, Honey, all these other bands that he had done, all of that gone. Everything gone. All the 22 guitars. His uncle Steve Lukather.
Yeah.
Steve has his own Luke model. Got 2 of those, $4,000 guitars, 2 of those. And I mean, I had an old Yamaha FG180. It was like a 60, I'm trying to think, it was like a 63, 65 maybe, when Yamaha bought Martin. They had all their wood, they had everything, and it's a classic. I don't even know how much that would be worth now, and that's gone. I call it a Jake caster. It was a carven neck. Yeah. And then from that, I carved the body, made the body, put in all the Seymour Duncan humbuckers, 2 stacked humbuckers and a double humbucker. I had a JB Junior, a little 59, and a full shred. And I had Wilkinson, tremolo, Spurzl tunings, all of it. And Luke played it and said, God, I can't believe you built this thing, man. And all that, everything's burnt.
That's insane. Now, what's going on? The insurance doesn't want to pay?
Oh, yeah, no, they're going
to pay?
Yeah, I mean, so far. I mean, we're not done yet. But, But I've still got some stuff. I've got to get evidence of certain structures that were there. Yeah. So we'll see. I hope they're going to pay everything. And if they don't, then you got to fight them,
Yeah. And so, what do you plan to rebuild out there or just move on?
Well, that's the plan.
Yeah.
Now I finally, after 5 months, I finally got the lot cleared, and I've got my next door neighbor is a builder that builds really, he built the company he works for. He's the on-site manager. He's the guy that's doing it all, and he's got the greatest people, and the workmanship he does is amazing. But he built Tom Brady's, Gisele Bündchen's $20 million home.
Oh, wow.
That some guy, I don't know who it is, a rap guy, bought it for $45 million. And
Yeah.
put in another $35 million, tore out everything.
Yeah.
Put in an underground pool, an underground spa.
Oh, shit.
It's not ostentatious at all.
Yeah.
And,
Just
put
ridiculous.
an underground sound studio. I mean, it's just like, oh my God.
Insane.
So it's like $80 million now or something.
Oh.
But so he's done that. And he's built. They build these high-end, huge things. But he's going to build. On his own. He's going on his own to build stuff.
Yeah.
So he's going to build it. Got a good architect, Clark Stevens, to do that. Design it.
What style is it going to be?
I like a more rustic style, and
Yeah.
it was all very rustic. I had trees growing up through the deck.
Oh,
it
wow.
looked like a tree house.
Was it like a craftsman, or was it
Well, it was all wood siding, cedar siding, and I had a deck built out. The decks that went off to the side, I had a putting green on top of the deck that I built myself out there.
Oh, man.
So I did all kinds of stuff to it. Lots of work. I lived there 18 and a half years. So
Shit.
So when I left the big house up in the canyon, Nichols Canyon up
Yeah.
there, and you get divorced and you got a huge house. It's like, hey, I don't need to.
Yeah, you don't.
Used
As
to.
you get older, you realize I don't need anything, right?
Yeah, and now I've got nothing. So now I must be right at the right spot.
Oh, shit.
So
Well,
I
look-
got my '66 bus that survived the fire.
Yeah, how'd that survive?
It was being worked on over in Thousand Oaks.
Oh, my God.
My guy Andy at McLaren Auto. He got him. I just got the call just yesterday. I got the call that he's ready, so I'm going to go pick him up. Took it over to Above All Glass and got new rubber.
Oh.
First time in 50. It's 53 years old. Buster is,
Ooh.
and I've had him for 51 years.
I got to see that thing. I got to see that.
I got a picture. I'll show you. And I've got to build now. I've got this week to build the inside, the bunk and all the stuff back inside. And I'm taking them on my trail ride going up the mountains. And so it's going to be fun.
That's badass. Thanks for
Yeah.
doing the show, man. You want to go see some comedy?
I want to see you up there. Be funny.
Let's go right now. We got to go right now because the show's in 10 minutes.
Excellent.
Do you have any social media, anything coming up where people can see you?
My son's got me. I'm trying to get the Twitter, Instagram stuff going, but I'm so lazy.
Okay.
I don't photograph myself on the toilet. So
I get
it's
you.
like, so no, it's nothing interesting. So, hey.
All right. Thanks
We'll
for
do it.
tuning in, everybody. And if you've never seen Airplane, do yourself a favor and watch this immediately. It is a comedy classic. Thank you, Robert Hayes, for
Thank
doing the
you,
show.
Dean.
I
Thank you,
cannot
man.
thank you enough. And we'll see you guys soon, man. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and YouTube. Candles are lit.